Living with Pastor B. Yes, I'm Pastor B, and thank you so much for tuning in. You are in for a great show. I'm going to be on mental toughness. Now, it's not mental illness, mental sickness. I did a show on that, and you can go back over on YouTube and watch that show, but this is not going to be that. So I'm not going to be coming from a clinical perspective today. So I'm asking you right now, if you're on YouTube, to subscribe to my channel, ring the notification bell. If you're on Facebook, I'm asking you to do a watch party, invite someone in to watch Balanced Living with Pastor B. Before I get into the show, I have to say happy birthday to the man in my life. Today is his birthday, and I'm so thankful that he was born to me, Mr. Jameis Alford. I love you so much, son. Thank you so much for being the best son on this side of heaven. I love you so much. Happy birthday. All right. Well, we're again going to be on mental toughness. Mental toughness. And I'm going to show you some ways to recognize what mental toughness is. And I'm going to give you some biblical stories or biblical references, I'll say, to let you know where people had opposition and had to have mental toughness. But first, I want you to know that everyone that is weary constantly is a sign they have no mental toughness. Anytime you see someone constantly weary, talking negative, we're snared by the words of our mouth, and have no joy, no peace, that is a person that has no mental toughness. That individual probably is also a person that always quits relationships, quits jobs, quits church, quit on God, because they have no mental toughness. And that's a good sign to show you when someone is actually weary, that they are not mentally tough, okay? I'm going to give you areas where you have to be mentally tough. It is imperative that you are mentally tough in these areas. The first one is, most people call it a blue Monday. Whenever you wake up on Mondays, and a lot of people hate to go to work, a lot of people just hate getting up. If your Monday is blue every week, then you have no mental toughness. There should come a point in your life to where you realize and you say to yourself that, okay, I'm thankful for my job. I'm thankful that I opened my eyes this morning. I'm glad I woke up. It should not be a blue Monday. You should not dread waking up every Monday. That shows a person that has no mental toughness. When a person feels like they're just in a routine of life every day, they're going to school, going to work, going to church, going home, going to school, grocery store, work, home. They're in a routine. It's a cycle. They're in a routine of life with no advancement, or it looks like they are not moving. They get weary, and that is a person that has no mental toughness, because everything has timing. Even if you're in a routine, who was it, Zechariah, that was actually doing his routine every day life, and then the angel came to him when he was going in to burn incense in the under the holies of holies, and he was going in just on routine every day as a priest, going in to light the candles. Then the angel of the Lord spoke to him and told him that, what, your wife is going to have a child. Just routine every day. He had enough mental toughness to realize, I'm going to wait until my change comes. You have to have mental toughness, especially if you live in the United States of America, because the injustices and the systemic racism that is actually going on here, you have to have mental toughness. It's only so much a people can take. And we know that it's been 400 years that oppression has been in existence, over 400 years, and you go from our ancestors to us today. It's only so much a people can withstand. We get one victory with George Floyd, and then you have the same day another young man or young lady that is murdered. It's only so much you can take, but in order to survive it, if you're not even you don't even have to be an activist. You could just be a prayer warrior. You could just be someone that is concerned about others here. You have to have mental toughness. Most people don't understand why people commit suicide, but I do. Because I watched the Temptations, and one of the original Temptations, his name was Paul. Paul was the one that committed suicide. You remember the scene where he drove up onto a parking lot, and he sat there for a while, and then he took the gun out with tears in his eyes, and then he shot himself, committed suicide. Now, the show actually portrayed to us he had problems in the group. He had family problems. And then he had an alcohol problem. That's what they showed us. But you have no idea what a person is going through before they commit suicide. It's mental overload. They can hardly handle the pressure. And that's a person that at that moment does not have mental toughness. They're not tough enough in their mind to actually want to actually keep living. So what's the best thing to do? Just end it all. And that's where you have mental overload. You need mental toughness when the enemy is coming against your mind and he's trying to tell you to commit suicide. Now, I've never had those thoughts, but I know what mental overload is. You can get to the point of burnout, and you can get to the point of quitting. But at that moment, you've got to pull yourself up, especially if you're a believer with some scriptures. You've got to play music over and over. If you don't do anything else, you got to call on the name of Jesus. That's mental toughness, okay? I understand also why people have nervous or mental breakdowns. You see a person perfectly fine today to you. You have no idea what's in their heart, what's in their mind, what's going on their jobs, what's going on with their family. You have no idea. It's mental overload. That's an individual that does not have the ability to be tough mentally, okay? So now let's define mental toughness. What is it? Strong enough to withstand adverse conditions, unfavorable situations, able to endure sufferings and difficulties. I'll say it again. Strong enough to withstand, not just stand, keep standing, withstand adverse conditions, unfavorable situations, able to endure sufferings and difficulties. One of the greatest difficulties I've ever had was loss of my mother and my grandmother. You definitely have to have mental toughness to actually watch a loved one leave your presence. You have to have mental toughness. And I thank God for the fact that I relied solely on him to actually get me all the way through it, okay? Sufferings and difficulties. Sometimes handling a situation doesn't mean you prayed about it and that God came immediately and he moved it out of the way. It just means that you outlasted it. Sometimes you pray and God don't come right then. Doesn't mean now. Sometimes situations does not mean that you prayed and God came right then and he moved it out of the way. It means you outlasted it. Let me give you a biblical reference. Job, God did not come in the beginning. Job lost his children, his home, his cattle, everything. In the beginning, his wife was still even there with him. And through it all, everybody left him. Friends were even talking about him. Not that God came right there and got Job out of it. No. Job outlasted those sufferings, that adverse conditions. He outlasted it. And at the end, we already know that his ending was better than his beginning. Sometimes God don't come right then. You know, a lot of people said he's an on-time God. Yes, he is. He may not come when you want him, but he'll be there right on time. Some people say God didn't never come. He does come. You got to recognize when he comes, because he might not come the way you want him to come. And that's when you have to have mental toughness. You're looking for him through the door, he comes through a window. You're looking for him through the window, he comes through the chimney. Because God comes on his own time. What the enemy does is he wants to see what level of frustration you're at. The devil works on a scale. Let's say the scale is 1 to 5, and 5 being the greatest, 1 being on a low number. And if you're at 3, the enemy's job is to push you all the way to 5. So he keeps on working on your mind until you get to 5, because he's trying to destroy you. You remember he comes to steal, kill, and to destroy? But if you're already at 5, then his job is to tip you on over until you destroy yourself. That's his whole job. He works and he watches to see what level of frustration you're at, which means that you should never allow the devil to see you sweat. Don't say a lot of things with your mouth. Watch what you say with your mouth. Watch your actions, because he's watching. He does not know anything until you open your mouth and release it. Mental toughness. You have to be strong. He will try everything in his power to exhaust you. That's his whole point. To get you so weak till you can't fight, to where you can't use the name of Jesus in the power. Remember, greater is he that's within us than he that's within the world. The enemy's job is to get you exhausted, to where you quit, to where you give up. He wants you to succumb. That's his whole job. So he keeps hitting your mind, because he realizes you don't have no strength to use the power that you have. Oh, let's move on. When you're mentally tough, you learn not to react, but to act. I'll say that again. When you're mentally tough, you learn not to react, but to act. For every situation, there is a proper response. I'll say it again. For every situation, there is not just a response, there's a proper response. Let me give you an example of this week. My grandchildren are virtual still, and they went to do their state testing. And when they got to the car, they were through with the testing, they come out to the car, and my grandchild said, "Nana, you need to come in." And I said, "What's going on?" "Just come inside." And as we were walking, he stated some things that a teacher had said to him. And I said, "Really?" So we walk inside, and he said, "There she is." And she was walking, and I asked her, "Can I see you for a moment?" Just as calm, because I didn't want to react. So I asked her, did she make the statements to my grandchild? And she said, no, she did not. By that time, the assistant principal comes up. I repeat everything that I had just stated to the teacher. And at that moment, she said, "Well, I didn't mean it that way." I said, "Oh, so now your memory done come back." At first, you said you didn't say it. Now you're saying you didn't mean it that way. I still did not react. I was just as calm. But what I'm teaching my grandchildren, as well as myself, to have mental toughness. He was strong enough to come out there and tell me so that I can go inside and handle it calmly. That's the new me, the new man. Handle it calmly. And what I want to tell you is teach your children how to handle situations, because everyone is not at a school because they love your children and they love teaching. Some are just there for a paycheck. And if my grandchild had not been with me and had been in an office, it would have been his word against that teacher. And then that teacher could have stated and stuck with what she said that I didn't say it. Then he would have been labeled as a liar. So watch your children. I'm diverting, but I'm asking you to watch your children. I'm telling you, rather, admonishing you to watch your children. Teach them how to be mentally tough, because I told her, you're supposed to be a mentor. You're supposed to be mature adults over these children. They're in elementary school. You can keep them down and not want to come to school anymore. You can put pressure on their minds, and they don't even want to come back to school. You can make them inferior to you. You can make them fearful. So I was just as calm. I'm telling you now, this mental toughness. Let me get on. Let me show you what happens. You cannot react. You have to act, because when you react, you follow the actions of another. You're responding to an external stimulus at the spur of the moment. I could have reacted. And then she would have pulled me over into her lie when she was saying that she didn't do it. No, don't react. Stay calm. I didn't go put my finger in her face. I didn't go rolling my neck. I was just as calm. Why? Because I acted, but I did not react. That's mental toughness. To act is a conscious choice. You decide what to do. You stop. You think before you speak. You decide what to do. You wait before you give a response. Sometimes it might take 24 hours before you even give somebody a response because you need to calm down. You need to cool off. That's acting and not reacting. And it only comes when you are mature and you don't want to be foolish and say something that you might regret. That's mental toughness. It allows you not to speak through your emotions. Mental toughness. You need mental toughness for every opposition in life, for all distractions. Whenever you're about to change anything, or whenever you're about to be effective in an area, change a generation, change a people, you need mental toughness. Why? Because opposition is going to come. If you don't want to do anything in life, you don't want to be anything in life, the devil won't mess with you. But the moment that you decide, number one, you're going to be a Christian, he's going to come at you. Number two, that you're going to be effective in somebody else's life, he's going to come at you. Number three, when you decide you're going to be effective in the world at large, he's going to come at you. If you don't want him to come at you, just be average. Just stay below average. Don't do anything, and he won't even bother you. But in order to be mentally tough, understand opposition is coming. Let me give you some examples. Whenever you make a personal decision to save money, then your car go out. Your oven goes out. The refrigerator goes out. Opposition. The very moment you decide, I'm going to set aside so many thousands of dollars, then opposition comes. The devil then comes and see, I'm going to see. Let's see. And he mess with your car. You need new brakes. You need new tires. Get a nail in it. Because opposition comes every time you make a decision. Whenever you decide you're going to change a generation and you're going to actually do something with your family dynamics, then your children get to acting a fool. They get to be rebellious. You don't know what's happening because it's an opposition coming up. It's just using your family, just using your children, using your spouse. Y'all have not argued in 2 months, and now it looks like you're arguing every night. It's opposition coming against you. When you decide to come out of debt, and you've done everything you can do naturally to come out of debt, and it's still not adding up on your calculator when you try to budget. Now, the key is you've done everything that you can possibly do naturally. That means stay out of the stores, stop buying things that you don't need to impress people that don't care. Whenever you do your part, and it still don't look like you're getting a financial break, it's opposition. That's the enemy coming up against you. Whenever you're eating correctly, exercising correctly, taking your medicine properly, and then you go and you still have some kind of illness, some kind of sickness, it's opposition. Go to the doctor so much, it look like you've been going to the doctor every week, and you're exercising right, you're eating right, but you're still feeling ill. That's opposition coming up against you. That's the enemy. Anytime you get ready to do anything great, opposition will come, and that's when you need mental toughness. If not, you're going to quit and you're going to give up. Let's look at some biblical oppositions that require mental toughness. After Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians, under King Nebuchadnezzar, Nehemiah, in the book of Nehemiah, prayed, and God granted his request to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Ezra wanted to actually build too, but Ezra wanted to build a temple. Nehemiah wanted to rebuild the walls. So this was right before now he even asked the king permission. As soon as the building began, opposition came. Nehemiah was approached by enemies, Sanballat and Tobiah. And they came, and you know the story, and they sent for him, and he ignored them, and they sent for him for the plain of oh no, and told him to come down. He said, why should I come down to you? I'm doing a great work. So what am I saying? Anytime you are doing a great work, opposition is going to come. Nehemiah had mental toughness. He did not even give in to the devil. Sometimes you got to ignore people. They see you doing a great work. Everybody's not for you now. Everybody's not clapping when you clap. Everybody's not celebrating with you. Everybody's not praising you. So he was rebuilding the temple walls. Opposition arose because he was doing a great work, but he had mental toughness. He had enough toughness in his mind to ignore them. Another witness, Esther, chosen to be queen. You know, Esther replaced Queen Vashti. First of all, that's opposition. You got to be mentally tough to go into a palace with a whole room full of hundreds of women, and then you're chosen to replace the current reigning queen. Opposition definitely going to come at you when you are chosen to replace somebody, especially the queen that was already on the throne, and God chose you to replace her. That's sure enough opposition. You better have some mental toughness, because envy and jealousy going to come then. But Esther was chosen, and this girl was getting all the attention. She was getting favor, and she had opposition when she went to the king. Now, it was against the law to go to the king unannounced. So she decided she was going to go to the king. The Bible says, she said, if I perish, I perish, but I'm going to see the king. She had opposition. She was going to the king to seek deliverance for her people, the Jews. It was against the law for her. But she had such mental toughness that she decided, it makes me no different. I got to do this thing. She had the people fasting and praying, and she went on behalf of her people to see the king. And he granted her her request. Mental toughness. Now, the greatest of them, biblically, and this is that had mental toughness, I'll say, is our Savior Jesus Christ. He was not a man now, but he became man. And as a man, he had to endure so much opposition. He had so much coming up against his mind. And he had to withstand, number one, the chief priests and elders, you know, the religious people that came against him. He had to withstand the Jewish leaders. He had to withstand the Romans, who ultimately were the ones that killed him. Then the people that were shouting, crucify him, were the people that when he was on trial against, for Pilate, when he stood there on trial, Pilate had him on trial. There were people that were standing, crucify him, crucify him. He had to have some mental toughness to withstand all of this. You had the chief priests, the elders, you had the Jewish leaders, you had the Romans, you had Pilate. And then, out of all of that, his own father asked him to do this for me. He had to have strength. And listen what he said. Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. Now that's mental toughness. Forget about what I want. I will succumb. I will yield to what you desire. That's mental toughness. And all I got to say, if you're not ready to fight, you're not ready to be used by God. If you don't have no mental toughness, I can assure you, you're not ready to be used by God, because it's going to require mental toughness. All of these people had to have mental toughness. Esther had to have it. Joseph had to have it. David had to have it. Come on. All of them had to have mental toughness. Jesus had to have it. And you too, if you're going to be used by God, have to have mental toughness. Those who are mentally tough won't give up when there's a setback. They simply bounce back. They focus on what they can't control. That's the key. In order to bounce back from any setback, you focus on what you can control and what's out of your control. Anything out of your control, you put it in the hands of the Lord. That's too big for me. I can't even do that, God. I give that over to you. I cast that thing on you. In order to keep my mind sane, I'll cast it on you. Those who are mentally tough don't need validation, recognition, affirmation from others. The reason they are mentally tough is because they have accepted who God created. This is who God created. And I'm okay with her. I like her. Actually, I love her. Everything about me, nose, eyes, mouth, belly, tummy, height, skin complexion, I love all. I don't need no affirmation. I don't need no confirmation. I don't need no recognition, no validation. People that always need validation from someone else is not mentally tough. So let me close the show by giving you a passage of how great opposition came in the Bible, and it's in Mark, the 4th chapter. Now, I said people that are not mentally tough always quit, because quitting is easy. That's why so many people do it. Quitting is easy. The line of people quitting is long. It's easy to quit. It's hard to stay the course. But if you want to be used by God, you've got to be mentally tough, and you've got to stay the course. Mark 4, this is where Jesus said to the disciples, let's go over to the other side. And immediately opposition arises. What opposition was that? A great storm comes. Now, the Bible is so specific. It didn't say a storm. It said a great storm, which tells me, again, anytime you get ready to do something great, a storm comes. Haven't you noticed? Every time you set out to do something great, a storm comes. A great storm came. The wind and waves beat into the ship until it was full. And you know the story. Jesus was in the hind part. He was asleep on the pillow in the ship, and the disciples came to him saying, Master, do you not even care that we're about to die here? Don't you see this ship is about to go under? And you know Jesus, my God, after the storm arose, his words to them was, what is it? You have no faith? How is it that you have no faith? And this is my thing. Jesus was with them. The one who could calm the storm was with them. And he said, you have no faith? So he simply said, peace, be still. But that's not why the storm came. The storm came because they were about to go to the other side. Key 2. Number 1, it was a great storm. Number 2, they were about to go to the other side. Whenever you're getting ready to go a distance and do something that God called you to do, now it's okay if you stay right here in this place. The devil don't care. You're not doing nothing right there. But when you make up your mind to go to the other side and to be somebody great, the devil's going to throw every jab at you. So they were about to go over to the other side for what? They were going to the country of the Gadarenes. And as soon as they got to the other side, there came out to the ship a man that was demon-possessed that approached them. He was out of control. This man, they had chained him up, locked him up because he hurt himself. He oftentimes cut himself, so they chained him up. He broke away from the chains, and sometimes he would go into the mountains. And the Bible says he lived in the tombs and would go into mountains crying and screaming and cutting himself day and night. When Jesus saw him, the man ran up to Jesus and he began to worship Jesus. When Jesus saw him, he realized that he was demon-possessed. So the first thing Jesus said is, what is your name? Not talking to the man, talking to the spirit. The unclean spirit, he said, what is your name? The unclean spirit was bold and said, my name is Legion, for we are many. Legion, for we are many. So here it is. Jesus is about to go to the other side with the disciples. They're getting ready to do something great. The devil knew that these spirits had been in this man for so long. The devil liked him cutting himself and screaming and crying every day. But as soon as he recognized there was somebody about to cross over that had the power to destroy those demons, he sent a great storm. That's what he does in your life. As soon as he sees that you're about to change somebody's life, you're about to be a spokesman for this, you're about to be a preacher like none other, you're about to make a difference on the job, you're about to make a difference in the school. As soon as he sees that you're going to be the mouthpiece, then he sends a great storm. So what happens? Jesus tells the spirits, he said, first of all, the spirits tell him they're legion, for we are many. And they recognize Jesus has the power, and they're so afraid of him. They asked Jesus permission to go into a herd of hogs that are out there grazing. Jesus said, okay, he grants them permission. He casts out the demons, the unclean spirits. They run and get inside these hogs. The spirits are so strong, the hogs get out of control, run down a steep hill into the ocean, and drown. Because that's how strong the demonic forces were. Can you imagine all of those spirits in that one man? I say he really was mentally tough for a while because he was handling them. But then they come to a breaking point where you can no longer take it. So the demons saw that Jesus had the power to destroy them. But look at the rest of the passage. Says, later the people saw this man that was free of the unclean spirit. He was sitting, clothed in his right mind, perfectly sane. You know, back in the old days, our grandma used to say, in your right mind, which means you had a wrong one. This man was sitting, the Bible said, clothed in his right mind. That means he was perfectly sane. He asked permission to go with Jesus because he was so thankful and grateful for what Jesus had done for him. Jesus said, you don't need to go with me. I need you to go back over there to all the people. Go in the city and let the people see you. Let them see this man who was once bound is now free. This man who was once demon-possessed is now in his right mind. He said, you don't need to go with me. You need to go back and be a witness. What am I saying to you? The devil knew that Jesus and the disciples were about to go over to the other side and heal this man, bring great deliverance, and that's why the opposition and the great storm came. What am I saying to you? In order for you to be mentally tough, you've got to recognize when there's a great assignment on your life. The devil recognizes there's something great inside of you, and he's trying to stop you. But you've got to be mentally tough. You got to stop whining. You got to stop crying. You got to stop speaking negativity out of your mouth. You got to stop hanging around negativity. You got to recognize that there's a great work, just like Nehemiah, for you to do. And the enemy knows it. So he's trying to depress you. He's trying to make you weary all the time. He's using your children to destroy your mind. He's using your spouse. He's using people on the job. He's using people in the family. But you've got to be mentally tough. Great oppositions only come to people who are about to turn the world upside down. And that, my friend, is you. Woo! Are you mentally tough? That has made me glad myself. I'm thinking about myself. The great work that God has called me to do. And that same work is inside of you. Greatness is inside of you. Priscilla, here you come on in here. I'm expecting great things. Well, in my life, in my home, all around, he's doing great things eyes haven't seen, but I choose to believe in the great things. If you have been chosen to do something great, the enemy is after you. He's after your mind, but you've got to be mentally tough. Will you be the next, what? The next president, the next mayor, the next CEO, the next one to start a business? What's your greatness that's inside of you? It's trying to come out, but it won't come out if you're quitting. The reason that so many people are quitting because it's easy to do. But I'm telling you, don't you quit. You've got to develop mental toughness for what God is calling you to do. All right, go back to the beginning of the show and watch it all so you can see why the devil has been after you. And if you've been watching this day, this has been Balanced Living with me, Pastor B, and I'll see you in the month of May.